The Awakening. The red dwarf star cast a dim, ruddy glow over the barren landscape of Novaterra, humanity's last refuge. Amelia Chen stood at the entrance of the underground city, her eyes scanning the desolate horizon. 3,000 years had passed since the Galactic Council had turned on humanity, reducing Earth to a molten ball of slag. The survivors, barely 1,000,000 strong, had fled to this inhospitable world on the edge of known space. Amelia sighed, her breath fogging in the thin, cold air. As leader of the Human Continuity Project, she bore the weight of her species' survival on her shoulders. Their technology had regressed, their numbers dwindled, and their very existence remained a closely guarded secret. But they endured. A crackling voice in her earpiece broke the silence. "Director Chen, we found something. You need to see this." Minutes later, Amelia stood in a newly excavated chamber deep beneath the surface. Her chief archaeologist, Dr. Zora Okoye, gestured excitedly at a sleek metal cylinder half buried in the rock. "It's of human origin," Zora explained, her dark eyes shining with excitement. "Predating the Exodus by at least a century. Some kind of time capsule, I think." Amelia's heart raced. "Can we open it?" Zara nodded, her fingers dancing over the cylinder surface. With a hiss of escaping air, the top slid open. A holographic projection sprang to life, filling the chamber with ghostly blue light. A face materialized. An older woman with streaks of gray in her dark hair. Her eyes were filled with a mixture of determination and sorrow. "If you are seeing this," the hologram began, "then humanity has survived. I am Dr. Samantha Reeves, lead scientist of Project Phoenix. What I'm about to tell you will rewrite everything you know about our history and our place in the galaxy." For the next hour, Amelia and her team stood transfixed as Dr. Reeves laid out a tale that shattered their understanding of the past. The Galactic Council, she explained, had not been the benevolent mentors they'd pretended to be. They had feared humanity's potential, our rapid technological advancement, and our unpredictable nature. The attack on Earth wasn't a misunderstanding or the act of a rogue faction. Dr. Reeves continued, her voice tight with barely contained anger. It was a carefully planned extermination, approved at the highest levels of the Council. They sought to wipe us out before we could challenge their dominion over the galaxy. Amelia felt her worldview crumbling. Generations of humans had lived and died believing they were the architects of their own downfall, that they had somehow provoked the Council's wrath. To learn it had all been a lie. But Dr. Reeves wasn't finished. Before the attack, a group of us realized what was coming. We couldn't save everyone, but we could preserve the essence of human knowledge and achievement. This capsule contains a quantum AI, programmed with the sum total of human scientific, technological, and cultural information up to the moment of Earth's destruction. The hologram gestured, and a small, crystalline cube rose from the cylinder. "This is Phoenix," Dr. Reeves explained. "With it, you can rebuild everything we lost. More importantly, you can take the fight back to those who sought to destroy us." As the hologram faded, the chamber fell silent. Amelia stared at the innocuous-looking cube, her mind reeling with the implications. After a long moment, she turned to her team. "Get that eye online," she ordered. "I want to know everything it can tell us." Over the next weeks, Phoenix revealed a wealth of knowledge that left the scientists of Novaterra in awe. Faster-than-light drives far more efficient than anything they'd cobbled together since the Exodus. Energy weapons that could slice through the strongest known shields. Medical technology that could extend human lifespans indefinitely. But it was the historical and cultural information that hit Amelia the hardest. She spent hours immersed in the records, watching the vibrancy and diversity of old Earth. The soaring cities, the teeming oceans, the lush forests, all turned to ash by the Council's betrayal. 2 months after Phoenix's activation, Amelia called a meeting of Novaterra's governing council. The chamber was tense, filled with the colony's top scientists, engineers, and military leaders. "For generations, we've hidden," Amelia began, her voice steady despite the gravity of what she was about to propose. "We've scraped by on the edge of the galaxy, too afraid to even whisper our own name. But now we have a choice to make." She activated a holographic display, showing the technological marvels they'd already begun to construct using Phoenix's knowledge. "We can rebuild everything we lost, and more. We can take our place among the stars again." An older counselor, his face lined with skepticism, spoke up and risked drawing the council's attention. "They nearly wiped us out once. What chance do we have against them now?" Amelia's eyes flashed. "They caught us by surprise last time. They won't have that advantage again. More importantly, we know the truth now. The council fears us. They always have. And they were right to." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Humanity's potential has always been our greatest strength. We adapt, we innovate, we refuse to accept limitations. With the knowledge Phoenix has given us, there's nothing we can't achieve." The council chamber erupted in heated debate. Some argued for caution, for using their newfound knowledge to build a better life on Novaterra. Others, their eyes alight with the possibility of vengeance, pushed for immediate action. In the end, a compromise was reached. They would prepare in secret, building their strength and gathering intelligence on the current state of the galaxy. When the time was right, humanity would emerge from the shadows, not as victims or refugees, but as a force to be reckoned with. Over the next 5 years, Novaterra transformed. Vast underground factories churned out advanced starships and weapons. The best and brightest minds poured over Phoenix's database, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. A new generation came of age, raised on stories of Earth's glory and the Council's treachery, eager to take their place in the stars. Amelia watched it all with a mixture of pride and trepidation. They were on the cusp of a new era for humanity, but the risks were enormous. If they failed, if the Council discovered them too soon, everything they'd built could be lost in an instant. On the eve of their first covert mission beyond Novaterra's system, Amelia stood once more at the entrance to the underground city. The barren landscape remained unchanged, but she could feel the energy thrumming beneath her feet, the pulse of a civilization reborn. A sleek scout ship rose silently from a hidden hangar, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible against the starry sky. Aboard was a hand-picked crew, tasked with making contact with potential allies and gathering critical intelligence on Council operations. As the ship vanished into the darkness, Amelia allowed herself a small smile. For 3,000 years, humanity had endured, clinging to life by sheer stubborn will. Now, at last, they were ready to do more than simply survive. They would reclaim their place in the galaxy. They would right ancient wrongs. And they would show the Galactic Council exactly why they had been right to fear humanity's potential. The dawn of a new age had arrived. And this time, humanity would not be denied. The preparation. The clandestine mission launched at the end of Part 1 marked the beginning of a new era for humanity. Over the next few years, Novaterra's influence spread quietly through the galaxy like tendrils of ivy, unseen but steadily growing stronger. Captain Alexei Volkov stood on the bridge of the Nightshade, humanity's most advanced stealth vessel. His weathered face reflected in the view screen as he watched a massive space station slowly rotate against a backdrop of stars. "Status report," he barked, his voice gravelly from years of barking orders in the thin air of Novaterra. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Zara Chen, Amelia's daughter, responded crisply. "All systems nominal, Captain. Our cloaking field is holding steady. The Galactic Council has no idea we're here." Alexei nodded, a grim smile tugging at his lips. "Let's keep it that way. Begin data collection." The Nightshade had been shadowing this Council outpost for weeks, gathering intelligence on ship movements, communication protocols, and defense systems. It was risky work. One wrong move could expose humanity's return before they were ready, but the information they collected was invaluable. Back on Novaterra, Amelia Chen pored over the latest reports from their covered operatives, scattered throughout council space. The picture they painted was both encouraging and sobering. The Galactic Council's grip on power had weakened over the millennia. Corruption and complacency had set in, and many member species chafed under their rule. But their military might remained formidable, and the memory of humanity's savage nature was still used to justify their iron-fisted control. Amelia's musings were interrupted by a knock at her office door. Dr. Zara Okoye entered, her face alight with excitement. "We've done it," the archaeologist announced breathlessly. "We've made contact with the Arcari." Amelia's eyes widened. The Arcari were a species mentioned in Phoenix's historical records, a race of brilliant engineers who had been on the verge of joining the galactic community when humanity fell. The Council had apparently subjugated them soon after, fearing their technological prowess. "Are you certain?" Amelia asked, leaning forward intently. Zara nodded. "Positive. One of our deep cover agents managed to establish communication with an Arcari resistance cell. They're eager to meet with us." This was the breakthrough they'd been hoping for. If they could forge an alliance with the Arcari, it would dramatically increase their chances against the Council. "Set up a secure meeting," Amelia ordered. "I want our best diplomats on this." As preparations for the Arcari meeting got underway, activity on Novaterra reached a fever pitch. In the cavernous underground shipyards, the final touches were being put on humanity's new flagship, the Nemesis. Chief Engineer Raj Patel stood before the massive vessel, his dark eyes gleaming with pride. The Nemesis represented the pinnacle of human engineering, incorporating technologies that even the Council couldn't match. "She's a beauty, isn't she?" a voice said from behind him. Raj turned to see Admiral Helena Vega, the newly appointed commander of humanity's growing fleet. The Admiral's weathered face bore the scars of countless training accidents and close calls during Novaterra's early years. "That she is," Raj agreed. "Those Council bastards won't know what hit them." Helena's expression hardened. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that. At least not yet. We need to choose our moment carefully." Raj nodded soberly. For all their technological advancements, humanity was still vastly outnumbered. They would need every advantage they could get. Weeks later, in a nondescript star system far from both Council space and Novaterra, a historic meeting took place. Amelia Chen stood in the conference room of a specially outfitted diplomatic vessel, facing a delegation of Arcari. The aliens were vaguely insectoid in appearance, with iridescent exoskeletons and multifaceted eyes. But it was the intelligence burning in those eyes that struck Amelia most forcefully. "We had thought your kind extinct," the lead Arcari said, its translator rendering its clicks and chirps into smooth English. "To find you not only alive but thriving, it gives us hope." Amelia inclined her head respectfully. "We've endured much, as have you. The Council has wronged both our peoples. Together, we have a chance to set things right." What followed was days of intense negotiation and information sharing. The Arcari's technical expertise meshed perfectly with humanity's innovative spirit. Together, they began laying the groundwork for a coalition that could challenge the Council's dominion. As the meeting drew to a close, the Arcari leader fixed Amelia with all four of its eyes. "We will spread word to other subjugated species," it said. "You are not alone in your desire for justice. When the time comes to strike, you will have allies." Amelia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time since they'd discovered the truth about their history, the path forward seemed clear. Back on Novaterra, the pace of preparations increased exponentially. The shipyards worked around the clock, churning out vessels of war and exploration. Training simulations ran constantly, preparing a new generation of humans for the realities of space combat. In a secure bunker deep beneath the surface, a team of scientists and engineers huddled around a glowing holographic display. Dr. Elena Rossi, head of advanced weapons research, pointed to a pulsing sphere of energy. "The graviton bomb," she explained to the assembled military leaders. capable of creating localized singularities. It can tear a capital ship apart without damaging nearby structures. Admiral Vega whistled low. That'll give us one hell of an edge in ship-to-ship combat. But what about planetary defenses? Elena's eyes gleamed. We're working on something for that too. A device that can disrupt a planet's magnetic field, leaving it vulnerable to solar radiation. Properly deployed, we could force an evacuation without firing a shot. The Admiral nodded approvingly, but Amelia, standing at the back of the room, felt a chill run down her spine. The weapons they were creating were terrifyingly powerful. She couldn't help but wonder if they were in danger of becoming the very monsters the Council had always feared them to be. As if sensing her disquiet, Captain Volkov appeared at her side. Troubled thoughts, Director. Amelia sighed. We're amassing so much power, Alexei. The potential for devastation, it's overwhelming. The grizzled captain placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Power is neither good nor evil, Amelia. It's how we choose to use it that matters. We're not out for blind vengeance. We're fighting for justice, for our right to exist. Amelia nodded, drawing strength from his words. They had come too far to falter now. In the following months, humanity's preparations reached their zenith. A vast armada of advanced warships assembled in secret, crewed by men and women who had never seen Earth but burned with the desire to avenge it. Spies and diplomats wove a complex web of alliances and informants throughout Council space. Standing on the observation deck of the Nemesis, Amelia watched as the final ships took their places in formation. The combined fleet of humanity and their new allies was an awe-inspiring sight. Admiral Vega joined her, resplendent in her dress uniform. Your orders, Director. Amelia took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. 3,000 years of exile, of hiding, of barely surviving. It all came down to this moment. Commence Operation Phoenix, she said, her voice steady and resolute. It's time to remind the galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. As the fleet engaged their FTL drives, disappearing in a dazzling array of light, Amelia sent a silent prayer to whatever forces might be listening. They were about to change the course of galactic history. She only hoped they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The first strike against the Galactic Council was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. First strike. The Nemesis dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of the Centauri Nexus, a massive hub of Galactic Council activity. Hundreds of ships swarmed around a sprawling space station, its gleaming spires stretching for kilometers in every direction. This was the nerve center of Council operations in this sector, a symbol of their power and reach. And humanity was about to bring it crashing down. Admiral Helena Vega stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, her weathered face set in grim determination. All ships, report in, she commanded. One by one, the captains of the human fleet and their alien allies signaled their readiness. The Arcuri warships, with their distinctive crystalline hulls, took up flanking positions. A contingent of Malak cruisers, their organic-looking vessels pulsing with bioluminescence, formed the rear guard. Director Chen, Helena said, turning to Amelia. The fleet is in position. We await your command. Amelia nodded, her throat tight. This was the moment they had spent years preparing for. There would be no going back after this. Commence Operation Phoenix, she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the order. The human fleet surged forward, their advanced stealth systems keeping them invisible to Council sensors until the last possible moment. When they finally dropped their cloaks, it was like a tsunami crashing into an unsuspecting shoreline. Caught completely off guard, the Council ships scrambled to respond, but they were too slow, too complacent after millennia of unchallenged rule. The Nemesis led the charge, its graviton weapons tearing through enemy vessels with terrifying efficiency. On the Centauri Nexus itself, alarms blared as the station's commander, High Counselor Zigzag, stared in disbelief at the tactical displays. Impossible, the avian alien squawked, his feathers ruffling in agitation. The humans were exterminated thousands of years ago. His aide, trembling, pointed at a new alert flashing on the screen. "Sir, we're being hailed by the lead ship." Zigzag hesitated, then nodded. A moment later, Amelia Chen's face filled the main view screen. The High Counselor felt a chill run through him at the cold determination in her eyes. "This is Director Amelia Chen of the Human Restoration Front," she announced, her voice ringing with authority. "For 3,000 years, your Galactic Council has perpetrated a lie. You tried to wipe us out, to erase us from history, but humanity endured. And now we've returned to claim our rightful place among the stars." Zigzag found his voice, indignation overriding his fear. "You savages, this unprovoked attack only proves why the Council was right to." Amelia cut him off. Unprovoked. Was the destruction of Earth unprovoked? Were the billions of innocent lives you snuffed out a justified act? Her eyes narrowed. "We're not here for revenge, Counselor. We're here for justice, and to ensure that what happened to us never happens to another species again." As she spoke, the battle raged around them. Human ships moved with a precision and coordination that left the Council forces reeling. The archery vessels unleashed swarms of autonomous drones, overwhelming enemy point defenses. Melak cruisers projected massive energy fields, absorbing incoming fire and redirecting it back at their attackers. On the bridge of the Nightshade, Captain Alexei Volkov allowed himself a grim smile as another Council destroyer succumbed to his ship's assault. "That's for Earth," he muttered, watching the enemy vessel break apart. But even as the tide of battle turned decisively in humanity's favor, Amelia felt a gnawing worry. This was almost too easy. The Council's response seemed uncoordinated, as if they were fighting with one arm tied behind their back. Her suspicions were confirmed when Lieutenant Zora Chen called out from her station. "Director, we're detecting a massive energy buildup in the station's core. I think there." She never got to finish her sentence. In a blinding flash of light, the Centauri Nexus exploded, taking with it most of the remaining Council ships and a significant portion of the human fleet. Amelia was thrown to the deck as the Nemesis rocked from the shockwave. Alarms blared, and for a moment, chaos reigned on the bridge. As she pulled herself to her feet, Admiral Vega was already barking orders, reorganizing their battered forces. "Status report," Amelia demanded, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead. Helena's face was grim as she surveyed the damage. "We've lost nearly a third of our fleet, Director. The archery took heavy losses as well." But her eyes gleamed with a mix of awe and disbelief. "We've done it. The Centauri Nexus is gone, along with most of the Council leadership in this sector." Amelia nodded, her mind racing. The Council's willingness to sacrifice their own people, to destroy such a valuable asset rather than let it fall into enemy hands, it spoke volumes about their desperation and their ruthlessness. "Send out recovery ships," she ordered. "I want every piece of debris analyzed, and get me a secure channel to Novaterra." The Council just showed their hand. "We need to accelerate our plans." As the human fleet regrouped, tending to their wounded and salvaging what they could from the battlefield, news of the Centauri Nexus's destruction spread across the galaxy at FTL speeds. On 1,000 worlds, oppressed species looked to the stars with newfound hope. Humanity, long thought extinct, had returned, and they had bloodied the nose of the mighty Galactic Council. In the Council's central chambers on their throne world of Action Prime, pandemonium reigned. Delegates from 100 species argued and accused, their voices rising to a deafening crescendo. At the center of it all, Supreme Counselor Vexalia, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical body, called for order. The humans were supposed to be gone, roared Gruxur, the representative of a warrior race from the galactic core. How could they have returned with such force, and allied with the Arcari and Malak, no less? Vexalia's robotic eyes flashed with barely contained fury. "It seems," she intoned, her synthesized voice cutting through the din, that our predecessors' failure to ensure humanity's complete extinction has come back to haunt us. But make no mistake, this changes nothing. Humanity remains a threat to galactic stability. They must be eliminated, no matter the cost. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber, but Vex'ahlia noticed several delegates shifting uncomfortably. The seeds of doubt had been planted. If the council had lied about humanity's extinction, what other secrets were they keeping? As the meeting adjourned, Vex'ahlia retreated to her private chambers. She activated a heavily encrypted communication channel, and a holographic image of a hooded figure appeared. "The humans have made their move," Vex'ahlia reported. "Earlier than we anticipated, and with more force." The hooded figure nodded slowly. "Then we must accelerate our own plans. Activate the Omega Protocol. It's time to remind the galaxy why the Council has ruled for so long." As the transmission ended, Vex'ahlia felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. The Omega Protocol was the Council's ultimate weapon, developed in secret over millennia. Its activation would change the face of the galaxy forever. But desperate times called for desperate measures. And if there was one thing the return of humanity had made clear, it was that these were desperate times indeed. Back on the Nemesis, as the fleet limped towards a friendly system for repairs, Amelia Chen stood alone in her quarters. She stared at a holographic image of Earth, the beautiful blue marble forever lost to them. Their victory at the Centauri Nexus had been costly, but it was only the beginning. The real war was just starting, and Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Galactic upheaval. In the weeks following the destruction of the Centauri Nexus, the galaxy erupted into chaos. News of humanity's return and their decisive victory against the Galactic Council spread like wildfire, igniting long-simmering resentments and rebellions across countless worlds. On the planet Novaterra, now revealed as humanity's hidden stronghold, Amelia Chen stood before a holographic map of the galaxy, watching as entire sectors blazed red with conflict. Reports flooded in from their network of allies and spies. The Praxian Collective had overthrown their council-appointed overseers. The Krelinor Empire had declared independence. The cybernetic Zin were systematically dismantling council communications relays throughout their region. "It's happening faster than we anticipated," Admiral Helena Vega observed, her voice a mixture of awe and concern. Amelia nodded, her brow furrowed. "Too fast. We're losing control of the narrative. If we're not careful, this could devolve into total anarchy." As if to underscore her point, an urgent message flashed across the display. Amelia's heart sank as she read it. "The Arcari homeworld is under attack. It looks like the Council is making an example of our allies." Helena's eyes hardened. "We can't let them stand alone. Not after what they risked for us." "Agreed. Prepare the fleet. We're going to show the galaxy that humanity protects its friends." As the human armada prepared for their second major engagement, other forces were moving in the shadows. On a dozen worlds, secret council facilities hummed with ominous activity as the Omega Protocol was put into motion. In the Arcari system, a fierce battle raged. The insectoid aliens fought valiantly, their advanced technology allowing them to hold their own against the numerically superior council forces. But it was a losing battle, until the sky lit up with the arrival of the human fleet. The Nemesis led the charge, its sleek form cutting through swarms of council fighters. Captain Alexei Volkov, at the helm of the Nightshade, orchestrated a series of daring maneuvers that left the enemy fleet in disarray. But it was the newest addition to humanity's arsenal that turned the tide. The Prometheus, a massive carrier ship, disgorged swarms of automated drones. These AI-driven machines, each no larger than a human fist, overwhelmed the Council's defenses with sheer numbers and adaptability. As the last Council dreadnought fell to the combined human-Arcari assault, cheers erupted across the fleet. But the celebration was short-lived. "Director Chen," a communications officer called out, her voice tight with urgency. "We're receiving a priority transmission. It's from Earth." A stunned silence fell over the Nemesis's bridge. Amelia felt her heart skip a beat. "That's impossible," she whispered. But as the transmission resolved into a clear image, she found herself staring at the unmistakable blue-green orb of humanity's lost homeworld. The image zoomed in, revealing a landscape that was both familiar and alien. Great cities rose from the plains and coastlines, their architecture a bizarre fusion of Earth's past and some unimaginable future. And in the skies above, massive structures hung in low orbit, orbital elevators, space habitats, and shipyards on a scale that dwarfed anything humanity had built in exile. A figure appeared in the foreground, humanoid but clearly not human. Its skin shimmed with an opalescent sheen, and its eyes were multifaceted like an insect's. "Greetings, lost children of Earth," the being said, its voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. "I am HFY, custodian of Terra. We have long awaited your return." Amelia struggled to find her voice. I don't understand. Earth was destroyed. We saw it burn." HFY's expression was unreadable. "What you saw was an illusion, a final act of deception by the Galactic Council. They could not bring themselves to destroy such a vibrant world, so instead they sealed it away, hidden from the rest of the galaxy by advanced technology." The alien continued, explaining how a faction within the Council had disagreed with the decision to wipe out humanity. They had used their influence to preserve Earth, terraforming it back to health over millennia, and seeding it with hybridized life, a fusion of Earth's biosphere and carefully selected alien species. "But why?" Amelia demanded, her mind reeling. "Why keep this secret for so long?" "To protect you," HFY replied. "To give humanity a chance to grow, to evolve away from the Council's influence. We always intended for you to return home. But not like this. Not in the midst of a galactic civil war." As HFY spoke, Amelia felt a growing sense of unease. This changed everything. The moral certainty that had driven their cause, the belief that they were avenging a murdered world, suddenly felt hollow. But before she could fully process this revelation, alarms blared across the ship. Multiple contacts approaching at FTL speeds. The tactical officer shouted, "It's a Council fleet, the largest we've ever seen." Amelia snapped back to the present crisis. Battle stations. All ships, prepare to engage. As the human fleet moved to defend the Arcari homeworld once more, a new player entered the field. From the surface of the planet, massive cannons of clearly alien design began to power up. "Custodian HFY," Amelia called out, hoping the transmission was still active. "We could use some help here." The alien's multifaceted eyes seemed to sparkle. "Of course, Director Chen. It's time we repaid our debt to humanity. Activating the Earthborne Defense Network now." Beams of searing energy lanced out from the planetary cannons, catching the approaching Council fleet by surprise. Ships began to fall from formation, their hulls breached by weapons beyond even the Council's understanding. As the battle raged, Amelia couldn't help but feel that they had stumbled into something far larger than their quest for revenge. The galaxy was changing before their eyes, alliances shifting, ancient secrets coming to light. And at the center of it all was humanity, no longer the victims of history, but its architects. The war they had started was spiraling beyond their control, reshaping the very fabric of galactic society. As she watched the Council fleet crumble under the combined assault of human, Arcari, and Earthborne weapons, Amelia Chen knew that the real challenge was just beginning. They had wanted justice, but now they faced the monumental task of building a new galactic order from the ashes of the old. The next few hours would determine the fate of not just humanity, but countless species across the stars. And somewhere out there, the Omega Protocol was still ticking away, an unknown threat looming over everything they had fought for. Amelia took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. "All ships, form up," she commanded. "We're not done yet. Not by a long shot." The battle for the future of the galaxy was entering its final decisive phase, and humanity, against all odds, was leading the charge. Final confrontation. The revelation of Earth's survival and the emergence of the Earthborne Defense Network had shifted the balance of power dramatically. As news spread across the galaxy, more and more species broke away from the Galactic Council's control, rallying behind the human-led alliance. But the Council was far from defeated. Supreme Counselor Vexalia had unleashed the full might of their remaining loyalist forces, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. And looming over everything was the specter of the mysterious Omega Protocol, its true nature still unknown. Aboard the Nemesis, Amelia Chen convened an emergency war council. Holograms flickered to life around the table, showing the faces of their key allies. Arcari Chief Engineer Xerix, Malak Hive Queen Salara, and the enigmatic custodian HFY. The council is massing its forces for a final push, Amelia began, her voice grave. Our intelligence suggests they're gathering at the Axiom Nexus, their last major stronghold. HFY's multifaceted eyes glimmered. We've detected unusual energy signatures emanating from the Nexus. It's possible this is related to the Omega Protocol you've warned us about. Xerix chittered nervously. Whatever it is, we can't let them activate it. The fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance. Amelia nodded, her jaw set with determination. Agreed. We need to end this, here and now. But we'll need every ship, every ally we can muster. As the others voiced their agreement, Admiral Helena Vega stepped forward, activating a holographic battle plan. We've devised a three-pronged assault, she explained. The Malak bioships will lead the vanguard, using their regenerative abilities to soak up the initial defenses. The Arcari and our human forces will follow, punching a hole through their lines. Meanwhile, a stealth team led by Captain Volkov on the Nightshade will infiltrate the Nexus itself. Queen Salara's tentacles writhed with anticipation. My children are ready to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. We shall darken the skies with our numbers. As the final details were hammered out, Amelia felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. This battle would determine the course of galactic civilization for millennia to come. There would be no second chances. Hours later, the combined fleet of the Alliance dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of the Axiom system. The Nexus loomed before them, a massive structure that dwarfed even the Centauri Nexus they had destroyed weeks earlier. Surrounding it was the largest concentration of Council ships ever assembled. All ships, battle formations. Admiral Vega's voice rang out across the comms. May fortune favor the bold. With that, the final battle for the galaxy began. The Malak ships surged forward, their organic hulls absorbing punishing fire from the Council's defenses. In their wake, Arcari drones swarmed by the millions, overwhelming point defense systems and clearing the way for the heavier human warships. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Amelia watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and horror. The scale of destruction was unlike anything she had ever seen. Entire squadrons vanished in the blink of an eye, vaporized by exotic weapons or torn apart by gravitational forces. Nightshade team is away, a communications officer reported. They'd breached the outer defenses of the Nexus. Amelia nodded grimly. Everything now depended on Alexei and his team. They had to disable the Omega Protocol before it could be activated. Inside the Axiom Nexus, Captain Volkov led his strike team through twisting corridors, battling squads of elite Council guards. The deeper they pushed, the stranger their surroundings became. The architecture shifted, becoming more organic, almost alive. I don't like this, muttered Zara Chen, her rifle sweeping the shadows. It's like the station is watching us. Alexei shared her unease, but pressed on. They had a mission to complete. Finally, they reached the central chamber. What they found there defied explanation. A massive, pulsating orb of energy hung suspended in the center of the room, tendrils of light reaching out to connect with the very fabric of the station. And before it stood Supreme Counselor Vexalia, her mechanical body interfacing directly with the Nexus systems. You're too late, she announced, her synthesized voice echoing ominously. The Omega Protocol is already active. Behold the true power of the Council. The orb pulsed, and reality itself seemed to warp. Outside, in the space around the Nexus, massive rifts began to tear open in the fabric of space-time. On the Nemesis, alarms blared as sensors went haywire. "Director," Helena shouted, "we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies. It's like they're trying to rewrite the laws of physics themselves." Amelia's blood ran cold as she realized the true nature of the Omega Protocol. It wasn't a weapon in the conventional sense. It was an attempt to reshape reality itself, to rewrite history in the Council's favor. Back in the central chamber, Alexei and his team opened fire on Vexalia, but their weapons had no effect. The Supreme Counselor laughed, her form beginning to merge with the energy orb. "You cannot stop the inevitable," she proclaimed. "The Council has guided the galaxy for eons. We will not be undone by upstart primitives." But even as she spoke, a new presence made itself known. Custodian Sever's voice echoed through the chamber, transmitted somehow through the very walls of the Nexus. "You forget, Vexalia," the Earthborn intoned, "that we too have had millennia to prepare." Suddenly, the energy orb flickered, its pulsing rhythm disrupted. Vexalia screamed in fury and disbelief. "What have you done?" Sever's voice was calm, almost sad. "We built fail-safes into the very foundation of this technology, knowing that one day it might be turned to evil purposes. You cannot rewrite a history you do not fully understand." As the custodian spoke, the Omega Protocol began to destabilize. The rifts in space began to collapse in on themselves, and the Nexus shuddered violently. "Alexei," Amelia's voice crackled over the comm. "You need to get out of there now. The whole station is coming apart." Captain Volkov didn't need to be told twice. "Fall back," he ordered his team. Double time. As they raced through the disintegrating Nexus, pursued by the howls of a maddened Vexalia, the battle outside reached its climax. With the Omega Protocol neutralized, the remaining Council ships found themselves outmatched and outmaneuvered. One by one, they began to surrender or flee. The Axiom Nexus itself, the last bastion of the old order, imploded in a spectacular release of energy that lit up half the sector. In the aftermath, as the Alliance fleet regrouped and began rescue operations, Amelia Chen stood on the observation deck of the Nemesis, gazing out at the stars. They had won, but at a terrible cost. Billions had died in this war. Entire worlds had been scared by the conflict. Admiral Vega joined her, looking equally weary but resolved. "What now, Director?" she asked softly. Amelia took a deep breath. "Now comes the hard part. We fought for justice, for the right of all species to determine their own destiny. We can't simply replace one empire with another." She turned to face her old friend, her eyes shining with renewed purpose. "We'll help establish a new galactic federation, one based on mutual respect and cooperation, not domination. And then we go home." As if summoned by her words, a hologram of Earth appeared before them, beautiful and blue and impossibly welcoming. "It won't be easy," Helena cautioned. "We've changed. Earth has changed." Amelia nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Nothing worth doing ever is, but that's what humanity does best, isn't it? We adapt. We overcome. We build something better from the ashes of the old." As the Nemesis set a course for Earth, Amelia Chen felt a profound sense of completion. They had avenged their past and secured their future. Now, at long last, humanity could take its place among the stars, not as conquerors or victims, but as architects of a brighter tomorrow. The war was over. The real work of building a new galactic civilization was just beginning, and Amelia knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them together, stronger and wiser for all they had endured. As Earth grew larger in the view screen, Amelia whispered a promise to herself and to all those who had sacrificed so much to reach this moment. We're home. And this time, we're here to stay.